I greet you in Jesus' precious name. I've got Snowy with me this time. He's just over the side of the fence here. Snowy, come and say hello to the people. It's a hot day and he's been standing there for a while. Folks, I want to speak to you about one word, grace. Grace. Do you know what grace means? Grace is undeserved loving kindness. Grace is unmerited favor. We don't deserve it. We can't earn it. All we've got to do is receive it. Now we go to the second book of Corinthians, chapter 12, and I'm reading from verse 9. And he said to me, Jesus said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, John. My grace is sufficient for you, Mary. My grace is sufficient for you, Janet. My grace is sufficient for you. For my strength is made perfect in weakness. So in other words, when I'm weak, then I'm strong. If you are a proud man, like I was, a self-made man, if I couldn't pay for it, I didn't want it, you'd never be able to accept that grace. So how did I accept that grace? Oh, folks, I've accepted grace through pain and suffering. You see, folks, Paul had a physical, it says physical, thorn in his flesh. We don't know what it is, he doesn't say. But what he does say is often when he's finished writing a letter, he says, see, I signed this letter in my own handwriting. I believe that he was partially blind. When he was knocked off his horse, he was stone blind. Then Ananias in Straight Street in Damascus was told by the Holy Spirit to go and lay his hands on Paul so that he would receive his sight. And he did receive his sight. But I don't know if he received all of it. Maybe there was just a portion, because from then onwards, Saul of Tarsus became Paul the Apostle, and he became a very, very humble and a gentle and a quiet apostle of God. Probably the greatest of all the apostles. So he's one of these men we talk about that walks with a limp. He walks with a limp. Why? Because of the pain that he's been through. They say that because he was beaten so many times on his back, on his spine, he had like bandy legs and he couldn't straighten up properly, and he used to walk basically in a hunchback type situation. He was stoned. His face must have looked a mess. He was beaten. He was shipwrecked. He was half starved. He went through so much for the Lord. But I tell you what, he did it gladly because God forgave him of all of his sins. Now, we talk about the wounded healer. I've spoken quite a bit about that in previous programs. The wounded healer. You see, folks, it's only when you and I have been wounded that we can really understand what the word grace means. Okay? When we have never been wounded, when we have never suffered, when we've always had everything on a plate, we become arrogant and unteachable. God can't use people like that. But when you are a wounded healer, a man or a woman who walks with a limp, and you operate on pure grace only, undeserved loving kindness, God can use you powerfully to heal the sick, set the captives free, bring people to salvation, because rather than preach, you cry more. And it's those tears that break people's hearts. It's not the clenched fist. I want to encourage you not to shy away from hardship. And remember, His grace is sufficient for you. What have you got to do? You've just got to obey Him like Abraham did. Believe Him and obey Him, and God will use you powerfully. You must die so that Jesus Christ can live in you. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. God bless you, and goodbye.